Hey Lightworkers, it's your girl Supernova Jazz, and thank you for tuning in to Shift to Culture.
Alora, Chyrie, Meyekal Coree.
We're talking about education and what does hashtag staywoke even mean for episode 1. We're interviewing reggae rapper Meyekal Coree and poet and educator Afro Aboriginal. So thank you again for tuning in and enjoy this episode.
Trying to elevate the way I vibrate. The marijuana kind of keep my mind straight. Moving to the
Hey everyone, it's your girl Supernova Jazz, and we're here at Shift to Culture, a platform where pop culture and conscious living can coexist. I got my girl over here, Alora Chyrie from the Follicle, a creative collective where creatives can come, expand, and produce. We got Meyekal Coree here, conscious lyricist with a reggae flow, and your boy Afro Aboriginal, a poet who feels education is very important through the creative work of poetry. And he just roots himself into his history. I love it. All right.
Awesome. So, Jazz, what is Shift to Culture? What does that mean? Like, What are we doing? Why are we here?
So the reason I created this channel, this podcast, it's along with Changes Ours, which is a nonprofit. They're actually in the back somewhere.
Cool.
Yeah. Shouts out. And I just want to bring in pop culture people who are making change in their community, but are also who they are in their youth, not forcing any agenda. And each episode, I just want to talk about something that we can bring to the surface, but which is a lighthearted message. So today we are talking about education. So Meyekal, you educate a lot of people through your lyrics. Yeah. What do you even think like education is, to be honest?
Education. That's a good question. Education's very That's education right there for you.
We got that?
Oh my god, I hope
We got it. We got it.
I'm Matt.
Okay, Matt, come here. I'm going to interview you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, how did you feel when you
Education.
decided to go for that cannonball?
Honestly, I didn't feel anything. I just kind of did. You know, it was one of those things that took over me, and I couldn't help but just feel it, and the wind carried me into the pool.
Do you think you can educate people on, just being more spontaneous?
I think most definitely, yeah. Sometimes gravity happens, and just let it happen.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the best introduction ever.
See, like, I need shit like that. I need shit like that. All right, y'all. So we're here. We're talking about education.
One of you girls had the phone in the hand. I was already in the air.
So, like, how do you guys feel like you can educate? Like, how do you educate yourself in everyday life or your everyday?
So education to me isn't just, the regular going to school, going to high school, middle school, elementary school, college, so on and so forth. Education is life. Everything about life is education, whether it's the way you live it, the books you read, the people you meet, the things you do, all help you grow. And education is growth in the mind as the being you are traveling through this time, you feel me? Like everything you do is your education. Life is your education. So whatever you can take from life and harness and use to your ability, that's your education right there. Of course, the formal education does help, the math, the sciences, so on and so forth. Also learn all that, but everything is education.
Yeah, I can
In my
definitely agree with that, Learning without just being in school, but learning throughout the time we're being here at all, as we are beings, being
Absolutely.
humans, being people. Just, I think that the whole life, exactly what you said, life is education. It's one and the same.
Afro?
So education to me is a way of living where you get to experience something with another person and learn from that moment. Like, I don't think education in the formal sense, like our education system isn't education, if you ask me. Because most of the stuff that, at least that I've learned, and I think that most people learn, aren't actually in school. And most of what we learn in school, we can apply to jobs, but I mean, that also isn't for most people living. It's just like our education system is pushing us to be a commodity and not to question anything.
Yeah.
And the way that I think education should be, and the way that when I work with my children, the way that I think education should be done is what I wanted growing up, right? So it's not this adult saying, hey, this is a fact. Like, whatever I say you have to do. I don't learn anything from that. What I learn from is, hey, I'm going to jump, and when I hurt myself, I know that I can't do this again.
Yeah, because I know you did say you learn more so education through travel.
Right, yeah. So how did I begin my journey to discovering what actual education was? So I went to Kampala, Uganda, and I grew up poor. And
most of us are not really from anything.
Right.
Here.
So, and I'm not even going to get more into that because it gave me a good perspective. And what I will say is that when I went to Kampala, Uganda, I learned that there's different types of poverty.
Yeah.
But in that also that every place is like a microcosm. It's like a little mini situation, right? We're talking about a system of oppression. And so the way that education shows up in oppression is that it shows up the same way in different places. And we just call it something different. But when I went to Kampala, Uganda, I saw myself there, right?
Yeah.
I saw myself, a little kid growing up, with very little resources. And then that just, it changed my whole perspective because it made me feel like I was part of something bigger and that somehow something was not being given to me that I needed to grow.
Yeah. Because the way I see education is we all see things in different ways. We are all separate journeys, all separate experiences. But for me, I educate myself through music. I see entertainers being my educators. Because I feel like most of the youth, we are putting out, we're paying attention more to what's entertaining. We're not really diving into news as much, the majority. For instance, the symbolism. Did you watch the Childish Gambino video, This Is America?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you guys feel about that?
I mean, so personally, I like the message that was being portrayed. I think, yeah, there was hella symbolism. There's definitely a message, and when music is intentional, and when there's a message in music, I don't think that it's weird that a lot of the youth are really into music.
Yeah.
And because this is how cultures work. Music shifts cultures. Many art forms, many different art forms, but since we're on topic of music, right? When my children sing a song, I no longer say they don't know what they're talking about. The children know exactly what you're talking about. And intention is everything. So with Childish Gambino's video, he was very intentional with the message that he wanted to paint and the fact that he refused interviews. The message.
Did he? See, I didn't even know that. You educated me on that.
The message is in the song. If you want to know what he's talking about, do your research. I agree with that. I can't always tell you explicitly what it is I'm saying. Make this interactive. It needs to be a two-sided thing.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, Afro, because I was thinking that education should be interchangeable. The teacher should be the student as well as the student being the teacher. So at this point, it's instead of just tell me, no, it's show me and then I do, show me and then I do, show me and then I do. That's how we grow our education. It's not only taking it in from within, but it's also using your skill to really teach. Because I feel like when I learn the best is, and I think that's with everybody, is when I start telling other people about it. Yeah. That's when I really know that I know it.
Agreed. If I had to go off of bounce off of This Is America, this subliminalism, that's what we're talking about, right? Subliminalism. Yeah. Heavy. And it was necessary because what it does is, the people that, to bounce off what you said earlier as well, I'm going to keep the same train of thought. The entertainment as education, I don't agree with that. I can't agree there because education, with my music, with things I say, if you're not progressing people, you're hurting them essentially. If you're not helping them grow, you're bringing them down, bringing them to your level, wherever you may be, however high you may think you may be, what you're portraying, if it's not truth and positive, if it's not rightful, then you're off. You feel me? There's something wrong there. So a lot of the entertainment depends on the artist, of course, the things they portray in their videos. There's a lot of subliminals and not just Childish Gambino's videos, but subliminals you'll never even comprehend unless you do your research. So bouncing back to This Is America, it raises the questions for people that are like, yo, I've never really listened to Gambino, listened to his music, seen the video even. You just hear the song until you see the video, then you realize, okay, he's digging into something way deeper. So there's always something way deeper. So it makes you question, like, what's
Which you
going
would
on
call, we talked before, what would you call a rabbit hole?
Oh, you
The wormhole?
down the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole, you
you gotta
dive-
jump down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. So entertainment, there's a whole lot of entertainment. Everything's entertaining. You can watch a dog run in circles and that's entertaining. But are you learning anything from the dog running in circles? Because I be on social media as much as everybody else, and some things get me laughing, and I'm like, I'm not learning anything. I feel like I may have just gotten a little bit stupider.
So you're saying
But
like
I'm still being
majority,
entertained.
it's just like nowadays, that's how it is. You feel like majority of music is not really doing any like good as educating it.
Not in that light, but just you got to pick and choose what you decide to be educated by. Essentially, like if you know that this isn't good for you, you can still listen to it, understand it's not good for you. But if you don't know no better, like
Yeah.
you're like, this is true, this is real life, this is what I
Yeah.
got to do too. So now I forgot which artist I was listening to, but he mentioned in one of his bars that he grew up listening to drug sellers and like drug pushers, but now the kids are listening to drug users. So what were the people listening to drug sellers? They wanted to get money. They wanted to live that lifestyle of, but like Biggie said, like don't, yeah.
That I was listening
But don't,
to.
don't, what was one of the 10 crack commandments? I forgot the specific one. Don't
We
get high
going
for
into
own supply,
Biggie.
you feel me? Like, they didn't do that, but now they're also probably selling the stuff, but also doing it. They're doing prescription things that are way worse than just selling marijuana.
Yeah.
You feel me? So it depends what you're getting your education from. And entertainment, This Is America, mad entertaining, mad subliminal, necessary. A lot of, say, I'm not going to pick and choose, but Migos videos or,
Yeah.
Future videos.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in there that we can get into on a different conversation, different topic. But is it educational? No,
Yeah.
it's entertaining, but it's not educational.
Yeah.
And that's just my 3 cents because that was a lot.
There's a lot of different art aspects as well, not
Yeah.
just
Agreed.
music.
Absolutely.
I know we are talking about music right now, but even in comedy,
Mhm.
comedians can be educational. but
Yeah.
A lot of them choose not to.
Gambino, like his music
Yeah,
is
he's also-
completely different from his stand-up.
And
like,
since we talking about Gambino, I know like Must Stay Woke. I feel like ever since that song came out, what's the name of the song again?
Stay woke.
No, Mama Redbone.
Oh, is it
Okay.
Red? Ah, yeah.
Ever since then, it was just like
We were all so confident in it.
people are, yeah. People are putting out the hashtag Stay Woke hats, the hashtag Stay Woke shirts. Like, so right there, Afro, like, what would you think people think what Stay Woke means? And what does it really mean in your definition?
So I've used it in my poetry once. I don't like to use it, and I'll be very specific why. I think at this point it's a trend, and I think that it has done a disservice, just like for the culture. Like it starts off and it's good. The intention is everywhere. It's like, yo, like we are doing this not because we know that it's gonna become the next hash. Like before it becomes like pop culture. Like when it's like really grassroots, like when it's really rooted, and when people are doing it without knowing that they'll be recognized for it, like that's when you need to be paying attention, because that's when it's very intentional, and that's when it actually has some type of change. Now when it becomes like this thing where everyone's hashtagging, oh yeah, you know what, now I'm woke. Now you have to question that. Because are you woke in right now here in the moment, or is it a journey that you've been going on that you're continuing?
Yeah.
And that
Are you woke because you
and-
have crystals?
Right. And that the moment that you're in right now is that this is what we define it as, but that you're gonna continue that. Like
Yeah.
it's a way of living versus like, yo, like
I
I'm
definitely
woke.
see that.
So, Michael, you really definitely think like Stay Woke is a trend right now?
Stay woke. Definitely now a trend.
What
Like,
does it really mean? Stay woke.
To me, stay woke. I can't even really think of the term stay woke without thinking of like where it's gone. You feel me? But to me, being woke is essentially seeking truth, seeking understanding, living like the full purest form of life, like literally disregarding the BS. And you have to first like acknowledge the BS for that matter. Like, know what's real, know
Be
what's
aware.
good for you,
Yes.
know what's right, you know, and then, boom, stay woke by pushing that aside.
By educating yourself.
You feel me? Like, we'll go into vegetarianism, veganism, whatever the case may be, holistic practices, pharmaceuticals, whatever it is. Like, yeah, some pharmaceuticals are good for you, necessary, but in the long run, long term, like, what do they do to you? You feel me? So if you can find a holistic way, stay woke. Toss the pharmaceuticals. It's how much of this country is hooked on oxys, hooked
It's a
on
business.
perks, hooked on.
It's a business.
So staying woke to me essentially is being in tune, being balanced, being with equilibrium, like staying woke and conscious and aware, not just, oh, I heard about chakras. I got a couple
Yeah, like,
crystals.
what is it?
Like, I'm woke. Like, my third
Yeah.
eye's open. What? I mean, I
Yeah.
get what, but tell me more. Can you tell me more if you can't tell me more?
So how do you personally, quote unquote, stay woke? Because like everybody's different. People meditate, educate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in what specific way like that caters to you, Afro?
So stay woke, like, without getting into like the trend of it, like what does it really mean? Is like just making yourself aware of yourself, your surroundings, and like not falling into the trap. People get caught up in too much of technology that is very distracting, like TV, cell phones, and all this stuff, and consuming, and it's always like people don't understand, like, stay woke. It means you're awake. It means that you're not distracted. It means that you're not in like a zombie-like form. You go into some places and everyone's looking down and they're on their phone and they're not aware of the surrounding. It's like you're in a zombie state.
And then they're questioning why this is happening and that's happening, and it's just like,
And then
had you been aware, you would have known why it was happening.
Right, and you can't even hold a conversation. And it's so, like, it's TV programming. You are being programmed, like, to think a certain way and to be conditioned to just
Even as
be
an
okay
infant.
with the way that things are.
Because you're being programmed from, like, the get. Like, once you come out of your mom's, like I was saying, like, you're being injected with things that you have no control over. You're being taught things you have no understanding of. Like, so there's, even if you follow, like, your parents' thoughts and the way your parents teach you, they might be wrong in their teachings. They might be wrong in their understanding. So what are they teaching you the truth?
Yeah.
Are they teaching you, like,
Their truth.
right from wrong, their truth? You feel me? But in my opinion, at the end of it is an ultimate truth. Like, you know if you're in that line.
Yeah, you do.
You feel me? So if your parents aren't living righteously, aren't doing things however they want to do, whatever the case may be. Lost my
Children
train.
know.
Children know. And then they keep pushing the program.
When you're a child, you're in soul form. You're in heart space.
Yeah,
There's no ego
exactly.
that's set
There's
in.
none of that.
There's no
We all know that.
distraction.
So that's why they
Regardless
get you.
of what you believe,
I
we all
mean-
know that children
Agreed.
are the pure form.
Yes.
There are certain people that come up in a really horrible, horrific upbringing,
course.
That's their
but
truth.
initially
truth.
Yeah.
they find
But-
find positivity.
Absolutely, but to get onto the programming, that's where, like, they catch you that early. And it takes us to get to however old we are, 21, 22, 25, 27 myself. Like, I've been on my journey for a little while. You know, some people never
Never get there.
They never
grasp
wake
it.
up.
They never wake up because they've been programmed their entire lives. It's not their fault. Like,
They call that.
They're trapped,
There's
you
four
feel me?
different consciousness. They call it drone, is when you're like completely just in the vortex, 9 to 5, and then you have artist consciousness, where you're in a state of expression. So it's either very positive, or very negative. And then you have the alchemist, where you have the ability to track these things, and then the final consciousness is wizard.
Yeah.
Which you never really
the
stay
highest
there.
power.
You always pretty much fluctuate, because that's just you need ego.
So I think that's interesting, the four consciousnesses that you were speaking of. But I also want to get back to education, because you all sparked my memory on why I do the work that I do. So I work with youth.
Okay.
I started off working with pre-K, and now I work pre-K through high school, creating a cradle to career, cradle to college pipeline to combat school to prison pipeline. So why do I do my work? Because I feel like the education system sends our youth on a path that devalues them and that devalues them to the point that they start to devalue those around themselves. That's not healthy.
It goes back to self-love too. Like
Right.
you're not taught self-love in the education system. And that was a question I want to ask you guys. So like what's lacking in education systems, period?
It's that anytime our education system takes a hit, the first thing that they take is always the creativity. It's always the arts programs.
That
Why?
goes out first,
Because
yeah.
the children can actually think for themselves through art. They can express themselves through art. But do they want that? No. They want you to listen. They want you to do whatever you're told to do. And like I tell my children, you always have two options. You never have to listen to me. If you don't, there's a consequence. If you listen to me, there's also a consequence. And I'm speaking from experience, so I'm telling you things out of love. You don't have to listen to me, but just know that will take you on another path.
The intent.
Right. But like real education is just allowing students to like teach themselves. Like they know exactly what they need. They think so creatively. I think as an artist and as a poet, like in truth telling, that my ultimate goal is to get back to the mindset that I was as a child. And I think that if we get to a society where people think like children, then like you don't have to worry about war. You don't have to worry about greed.
There's a difference. There's a difference between thinking like children and acting like children.
Yeah,
Correct.
definitely.
And a lot of people.
What's the division?
I mean, it kind of speaks for itself.
Oh,
Yeah, I definitely, I see
like
what
that
Michael's
distinction.
saying. Thinking like children would be more towards like being creative, being yourself, which is really,
Thinking.
because a lot of the things that the media feeds us is us being somebody else. We need to fit into a box. That's why we have stereotypes. That's the whole reason for them. Why was that word even created? It's just so that we have a box to put you in, so we know where you lie.
And you're taught things, right? Like racism and hate, these are things that are taught. And that means that they can be untaught. And that means that you can stop them from happening.
Yeah.
And so why is our education system, first of all, they don't teach us about our place in history.
In our head.
And like that's how I got to the point where I'm at now. Because like whenever I read about my people in a book, it was always these savages were slaughtered and they were killed.
And that's
by
all
the
you know them
Europeans,
for, yeah.
Right? And it was like 2 paragraphs at the beginning of a book. Like that's not my people. And then they don't even tell me about like our African roots. Like in the Caribbean, like that is a big thing. Where like a lot of Caribbean people like don't acknowledge the fact that like we're rooted in Africa, and it's in our music, it's in our food, it's in our language, it's in
Can't run away.
it's in everything that we do. Like I play the drums. Like that has gotten me closer, and it's gotten me to a spiritual place where I can actually grow. And like whenever I play the drums, children always there, always they're attracted to it. It's like natural. Like our heartbeat beats to a rhythm, just like when you play a drum, it's to a rhythm. Our life is a rhythm. Education is a rhythm. Once you get thrown off, like it's just white noise.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, also to trickle off of the question you asked earlier about what's missing from the educational system, and he said it. What does he give his students? Love. That's what's missing. Like, teachers are parents, essentially. Like, if your parent don't love you, you're gonna live an interesting life. You feel me? Like, you can't grow without love. Like, plants and all this don't grow without Mother Nature's love. Your kid don't grow without your love. You feel me? You don't grow without your own love. You degrade yourself. You lose yourself. So love is what's missing from the education system, in my opinion. How to change it? People are working on that. People close to me are working
shifting
on that.
a
You feel
culture
me?
on it.
Shifting the culture. That's not my specific route, but it's for me outside the educational system for what they're listening to. So I'm also attacking that with the people that want to change the education system, just in a different manner.
Yeah.
You feel me?
I had this one teacher, her name was Miss Lapel, and I always remember her because she did come from more of a loving standpoint. So we read all the classics like Romeo and Juliet, but they were always the alternations of the modern to where she can relate to us on our level. And to this day, I haven't seen that teacher. I probably might never ever see her, but I'll always remember that she stooped down. Not even stooped down, she came to relate to my generation and
also
how me I
the fact
understand
that
it.
our educators are so underappreciated, underpaid. Like, you gonna go to school,
It
have
used
to
to be
buy.
a value, but
Yeah.
back in the day, it used to be-
Exactly. You're a teacher.
highest respected people.
They are like
Exactly.
doctors.
Yeah.
They
So
should be paid
now
like
you
doctors.
get paid minimum wage, and then close to minimum wage, excuse me. Yeah, you get half the year off, but you got to deal with kids all the time.
But then you got to find the
then
substitution
you
for
gotta-
that salary right there.
But then you got to buy all your supplies.
Because you still have to,
Yeah, exactly. You still got to build your
creating
curriculum
and, yeah, exactly.
and do all
Curriculums for
that.
the next year. It
Absolutely.
never stops.
So you never really
You're cleaning
stop.
out your room for about a month
And then
after
you gotta-
the children leave.
Coming out your pocket.
Exactly.
So, last question for you guys, because you guys
some.
are
I'll be like,
amazing. You guys have been giving me nothing but facts and truths. But how could you, how do you like stay educated, stay woke, stay aligned? It all means the same thing, to be honest. Yeah. How do you personally do what you do, Afro, to stay aligned?
I really love coffee. And
Not a stimulant.
Not to stay awake.
No,
Yeah, not to stay awake.
Actually,
To
it
stay
isn't.
woke.
It isn't to stay awake. I actually enjoy the process of making coffee. There's like a rich history in coffee making, and I also learned like cigars. Like the indigenous people of the Caribbean use like cigars for rituals.
Yeah.
Like like how like people culturally appropriate. Like white people do that stuff where they just take it and they make it evil, and then you have to educate yourself because there's it came from somewhere.
Yes, it did.
So you're trying to
And-
get the real understanding.
Right,
the
and
root.
so I mean, for me, like the way that I educate myself is that I find the things that help me to heal, but I also am always willing to learn from anybody. I don't see myself as being the end all be all. Like you have something that I need to know and that I have to learn from you, and I have something that you need to get from me. Together, like you know something, I know something. Together, we all know more.
Because we're all connected.
And like that's how we grow. Like, and that's you always have to be willing. Like even if it is my truth, it would be wrong for me not to question it, because truth changes, because situations change, and yeah, education is constant growth, and the reality is that the education that I'm looking for, I get oftentimes in teaching my students and learning from them. They're always questioning me, and I go home and I just think about it. I was like, yo, like,
They really,
Wow.
they got your brain going.
Yeah.
They got your gears flowing.
so coffee and children.
Michael, what's up?
Can you repeat the question for me real quick? Coffee and children.
How do you, quote unquote, stay woke, stay aligned, stay educated in your own Meyekal Coree way that maybe somebody might be like, aha,
Stay
I'm
woke,
gonna try
stay
that.
aligned, stay educated. That's what you said, right? So, educating yourself, reading as much as possible. I feel like there's a piece of you, like if you stay true and honest, like I pray every day. I don't know if people pray. I believe in a higher power. If you don't, it's your deal.
Yeah,
I
pray,
ask
like,
for truth in whatever I'm facing, and I instill in myself. I believe that even through whatever I may read, like the truth will find its way to me. If I'm reading a paragraph full of nonsense and there's one line of truth, like that truth is gonna stick, and I'll remember it one day, one lifetime, whenever I'm supposed to remember it. So I stay woke by staying true to me, staying in my light, staying true to myself, not getting caught up in other people's nonsense, society's nonsense, so on and so forth. That's how I stay woke. The rest of the question, I'm sorry.
No, just something you personally do. You pretty much answer
Yeah.
my question.
Okay.
And create
And
that's
create,
what we all
exactly,
are doing.
exactly, and release. You
Create.
gotta make sure, because energy does that.
It's
you
gotta
know
be
what I'm saying?
transferred, so
Like,
you gotta
before
make
that
sure you
bubble
transfer,
pops, you
yeah.
gotta make sure
can I
you can.
piggyback off of Michael?
Of course.
Yeah, how do
Just
you
make sure
stay
you-
aligned?
Yeah,
in your
I
own
think
way?
that reading is really prevalent or prevalent. Thanks. I put
one of those
relevant and
dictionary-
prevalence together.
Relevance.
Hey.
But yeah, I think it's very important because, like he said, when you read one thing of truth, like that part will stick with you. It doesn't matter about all the rest of what's around it. That truth is going to stay with you. And I also talk to myself because, like,
You should
to
talk
Me
me,
too.
myself
Me too.
is different than the body that I'm in.
Great conversation.
Myself, inside of myself, I know. Myself knows all. I
that's
just
the
need
best
to
thing.
understand what myself, like, a lot of the times, words are not what really explain
Words
things.
were also created. You gotta
They're
remember that by
created,
somebody
exactly.
else.
So you have to just feel and understand who you are inside, and everything else is gonna come to light. the answers will start coming to you. They start flowing.
told Jazz the other day,
You start
it's all
seeing
been
the
written.
synchronicity and things
Yeah.
of that nature. But Jazz, what about you? What makes you stay woke, boo? My stay woke.
Personally, I take the very beginning of my day and the very last moments of my day, and you would call it praying, but I call it meditating. I think they personally go together.
Yeah.
And because I know right there, I'm going in sleep and out of sleep, and then that's when you're connected the most, is when you're unconscious and your soul's just
Beginning of the
out
day
there
and the
in
end
the
of the day.
divine. Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
I agree with that.
and staying present.
Yes.
So
Being
closing
here now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So closing. Go ahead.
I think it's also important to realize, at least in my opinion, that we're spiritual beings with human experiences. Like a lot of us focus on like the here and the now. Like you gotta understand your past to be present so that you can think about the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're
We need it
spiritual
all.
beings. We're not.
It's
This
the
is not our
Trinity.
first round here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Trinity.
It's not our first round, absolutely. That's what I be telling. We had that conversation
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah.
Not our first time.
It's not.
It's always been written.
Hopefully it's my last, but I mean, hey.
But all right, Shift to Culture, I just want to remind you to stay present and stay grateful.
Supernova Jazz, Alora, Chyrie, Meyekal Coree, Afro Aboriginal.
Yeah.
Jazz.
So you can leave a comment, comments, concerns, questions, but I just want to ask you, what does stay woke mean to you, viewers?
I just wanna be my own self. I just wanna be my own self.